Well, what's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be revisiting the triple Shadow Dog theme team that I ran towards the end of last season. Now you might be thinking, well, that was only a few weeks ago, why are you making this video now? Well, the reason is because two of those Pokemon recently gained access to Psychic Fangs, and that is the Arcanine and the Manectric, meaning that this is now not only a triple Shadow, triple Elemental Fang, triple Dog theme team, but also all three Pokemon have access to another fanged charge move that also does have a guaranteed defense drop. So that just means that there's even more similarities between these three Pokemon, and I thought, you know what, these two Pokemon got a buff, let's just make another video. And with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. We already know that Poison Jab and Poison Fang is an absolutely broken combination on Nidoqueen, so I was wondering, is there a Pokemon that learns Psychic Fangs that you think would be absolutely busted if it got access to that charge move? Let me know in the comment section below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle here, we lead into a Pelipper, so this is a pretty neutral lead, but of course I do have that Shadow Manectric to absolutely destroy it in the back, so I'm going to let this move go through, instantly swap into the Manectric, but my opponent switches into an Azumarill, so they're super weak to electric, so I'm going to shield this charge move. I'm going to be able to Thunder Fang, farm down this Azumarill. I already know that Manectric is very strong against one of their Pokemon. They come in with a Unnovan Stunfisk. This Pokemon triple resist the electric typing there, so it kind of makes sense. I'm going straight for the overheat now after landing the Psychic Fangs, and we take out the Stunfisk, and now we've debuffed our attack, but I'm still able to Thunder Fang, farm down the Pelipper there, and completely destroy my opponent's team with the Shadow Manectric there. Into the next game, we lead into a Galarian Stunfisk this time. I'm just going to stay in initially, go for a Crunch, and then I think I might swap out after that. They go for a Rock Slide, going for the Crunch, but actually, no, my opponent switches here into a Medicham, so I'm going to switch into the Manectric. Manectric has the worst matchup up against that Galarian Stunfisk, especially because I'm very slow to reach the overheat, so I let the charge move go through here, go for a Psychic Fangs, and my opponent is happy to let the Medicham go down. They come back in with the Galarian Stunfisk, and at this point, I'm going to come in with the Arcanine, but this Galarian Stunfisk does have a lot of energy, so I'm likely going to have to double shield here if I want to maintain this matchup, and I will commit both shields. Now I just have to pray there's something weak in the back to the fire typing, and there is. It's a Alolan Ninetales, and this is perfect. We debuffed their defense, and now I switch into the Mightyena there, and I can catch this Weather Ball. My opponent undercharges it, and they concede the match. So that is where the Psychic Fangs really comes in handy for Pokemon like this, with the Fangs as the fast moves as well, because we can just boost our damage output because we're lowering their defense. Now into this matchup here, we led into a kind of tricky lead situation because the Froslass does resist the ice moves, but I'm able to get a shield here, and my opponent tries to farm me down, so I'm able to get to a second wild charge, and I take both shields from the Mandibuzz here, which puts me in a really good position. Now I'm going to come in with the Mightyena here, force them to throw an Aerial Ace, because Aerial Ace is the worst move, and now I'm going to switch. My switch clock just barely came up, and I'm going to catch a resisted Aerial Ace onto the Manectric. My opponent switches into a Haunter, so I'm just going to shield this up and hope that I can Thunder Fang, completely farm them down here, and I'm able to, which is perfect. They come back in with the Mandibuzz. I'm going for the Psychic Fangs here. I'm actually not going to fully charge it. I come in with the Mightyena here, and at this point I can go for a Crunch. Crunch is going to be enough to take out the Froslass here, and we take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into an Alolan Ninetales, so not a good lead. I'm just going to swap straight away into the Arcanine. My opponent comes in with a Galarian Stunfisk. Now this is a matchup that we can maintain, but we're going to be forced to double shield like I mentioned earlier. So it's just a case of, do I want to double shield or not? And the answer is yes, I'm going to commit both shields in this matchup. I don't know what is in the back yet, but we're going to see what it is now. Actually, no, we're not. They're going going back in with the Alolan Ninetales. Is this team super weak to fire? We're about to find out. I'm able to completely Fire Fang, farm them down, even get to another Psychic Fangs here, and because Medicham is their final Pokemon, they're going to remain with the defense drop for the remainder of this battle. And now I come in with the Manectric here. I'm gonna catch a Psychic onto the Mightyena here, and at this point we're in a very good position. We get a bit of visual lag there, but nothing too important there. We're able to Ice Fang, farm down the Medicham, and take that game. Now going into the next match here, we lead into a Kingdra. Bit of a tricky situation here. Obviously the Arcanine will be absolutely useless up against a Kingdra, so I'm just going to stay in, go for a Poison Fang. My opponent throws the Octazooka, and at this point I'm happy to let the Mightyena go down. I come in with the Manectric, and I'm able to Thunder Fang, farm them down before they get to another charge move. They come in with a Nidoqueen. Now I'm going for the Psychic Fangs, and then I'm going to switch into the Arcanine. We will have to shield everything at this point, but I think I'm just going to go for a Psychic Fangs. As soon as I reach it, I really don't want to have to use my second shield straight away. We go for the Psychic Fangs, we take them out, and fortunately for us, they have a Venusaur in the back, and at this point, I can safely shield this, go for another Psychic Fangs, and this will easily take out the Venusaur from this range, and I'm able to take that game. Now into the next match here, we lead into a Lantern, and this is going to be the first time I come up against the infamous Lantern and Altaria core. If it was the other way round, I'd be in a much better position, but unfortunately Arcanine doesn't want to see Lantern whatsoever, so I can't swap out of this matchup. And having now experienced this matchup once, I think the correct play would just be to go for a Crunch and let the Surf go through, because I know that they can now farm me down before I get to the double Psychic Fangs, or Poison Fangs, sorry. I come in with the Manectric, farm them down, they come in with a Trevenant. At this point I should just go for a Psychic Fangs bait, but I really am not too keen on baiting with Psychic Fangs yet. So I go for the heavy hitting Overheat, and my opponent does shield it, and at this point there's not a lot I can do. I go for the Wild Charge once again, don't want to bait them, and they let it go through this time, but I'm not going to be able to win this game whatsoever. So I am just going to let the Sky Attack take me out, and I do lose that game. Into the next game, we lead into a Trevenant. Now this is a very good lead for us. They stay in for a while, realise it's Ice Fang, switch into the Marwile here, and at this point I'm in a very good position. I can fully Fire Fang, farm them down. All charge moves apart from the Parrot Punch are resisted, and of course Parrot Punch isn't going to do an awful lot of damage. Here we go for the Psychic Fangs up against the Alolan Marowak, and we're just barely not able to get to another one, so that is fine by me. And now I'm going to come in with the Manectric here. I'm actually just going to let them throw their energy into me. I don't really care. There's no point in saving this Manectric. I'm going to switch out, Ice Fang, farm down the Marowak, and at this point we're in a very good position here. I can safely use my shields if my opponent wants to throw, or they just respect that they're going to lose and just let me Ice Fang, farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. Into the next game, we lead into a Samurott, and I just don't know what to do here. The Fury Cutters are super effective up against the Dark typing. I switch into the Manectric, and they have another Water type, this time in the form of Swampert. Things are really not looking good for us. I don't really know what I'm going to do with that Arcanine, because at the moment it is absolutely destroyed by both the Water types on their team. I'm actually going to let a Hydro Cannon go through here, try to Ice Fang, farm them down. I'm able to. They come back in with the Samurott. I'm barely able to get to a Poison Fang, and then I'm going to have to switch into the Arcanine. Actually, no, I just faint. I'm going to shield this up, but I think they're pretty much the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, but my opponent comes in with the Skarmory. I'm thinking at this point they are at the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, so they're just forcing me to use my final shield. So I go for the Hail Mary Wild Charge, but my opponent shields it up. I really didn't expect that. I'm going to be able to Fire Fang, farm them down. It's just a race, and they didn't have the back-to-back Hydro Cannons. I'm able to get to a Psychic Fangs, and I'm able to take them out there. So I really have no idea how I was able to win that game, but GG's to that opponent. Into the next game, we lead into a Shadow Abomasnow, the best core breaker to that infamous Lantern and Altaria core that I mentioned a few battles ago. They go for a Weather Ball, I'm going for a Poison Fang, and then I'm instantly going to switch into the Arcanine, try to snipe them before they can react. We get off one Fire Fang, I did so much damage, but they do respond with a Sableye here. I'm going to shield this up and go for a Psychic Fangs. Even if they no shield it, that's perfectly fine because it means I will be able to Fire Fang, farm them all the way down before they get to the next charge move, and I do maintain the switch advantage. They come in with a Nidoqueen. This is looking pretty tricky here as I really don't have much health left on my Mightyena, so I'm going to come in with the Manectric here, and I'm just going to have to try and guess when they throw their charge move, but my opponent doesn't throw, and unfortunately there's not a lot I can do here. I'm going to no shield the first Poison Fang. It does so much damage, and at this point my only play is if they try to be fancy, switch and try and catch, but they don't do that, and I do lose that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into a Sableye, so this is a pretty good matchup for us as we do resist the Shadow Claws and the foul plays. They switch into Azumarill. I'm going to shield once and then completely farm down this Azumarill, come out with a ton of energy, and the threat of a Wild Charge will pretty much guarantee I can get shields back in this matchup up against the Sableye. I'm going for a Psychic Fangs here. We get the shield from my opponent. I don't think I'm going to get to the next move before they throw, so I'm going for another Psychic Fangs, and I get the second shield from my opponent as well. I'm coming in with the Mightyena, gonna shield once. If this is a return, they won't get to another move, and if it's a foul play like it was there, they're only gonna get to another foul play, which is resisted. They come in with Talonflame. I switch into the Arcanine. I'm just forcing them to go for the Brave Bird here because a Flame Charge won't be enough to take me out. Brave Bird does take me out, but at this point they've lowered their defense, so I can safely go for a Crunch, and Crunch is enough to take out the Talonflame, and I'm able to take that game. And now into the final battle of the video, we lead into a Shadow Dragonite, and that is a really good lead for us. They switch into the Double, I think it's called. They go for a Payback, and that nearly takes me out, and I don't even get to a charge move, and wow, I did not expect that. I was expecting a Body Slam, so I come in with the Manectric here, and I'm just going to shield this. I'm very scared of another Payback, and they do go for it, so fair play to my opponent here. I'm going to go straight for a Psychic Fangs, expecting it to be Dragonite, and it is, so I'm hoping that their switch clock isn't quite up yet. I can switch out, go for the Ice Fang, farm down, and now they have a Stunfisk in the back, and we did have a slight bit of stutter lag there, so it kind of messed up my counting. I thought that was just 4. I was thinking, okay, they're just throwing a Muddy Water, but it is a Rock Slide, and at this point they're able to farm me down with Mud Shots, and there's just nothing I can do here. So I did misplay that game, but fair play to my opponent for coming back from an awful lead with the Shadow Dragonite into my Shadow Ice Fang Mightyena. And that is going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future and you're not yet subscribed, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that way you're notified whenever I upload a new video. So with that being said, let's get into the shoutouts from my previous video. So firstly, we've got Extra Spicy Boy who says Alolan Raticate with return plus quick attack is definitely underrated, and I think it could be very strong in certain themed cups. Next, we've got Weef who says Haunter with Ice Punch is super underrated, and I definitely think this is a Pokemon that could be very strong in certain situations, and definitely one I want to try out in the future, as you guys know that I love using glass cannons here in GBL. And finally, we've got Jacob Levix who says Double. I don't think this is necessarily underrated, but it's definitely underrepresented in the meta so far, and that's probably just because I think we've only had like one event where Wooloo actually spawned, and obviously it wasn't very useful back then, so a lot of people like myself didn't keep hold of a good one, so just haven't built one, and I actually don't have access to a Wooloo at all, so unfortunately that's not a Pokemon I'm going to be able to showcase on my channel just yet. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.